Special thank you to Seed and Stone Cidery and Lucky Buzz Meadery for sponsoring the show today. They help to make this show possible and supply us with the occasional beverage when we're out there. They've got 10 taps full of meads and ciders made right there in-house. They've also got all sorts of awesome events going on, including an open mic almost every single Thursday where you can come out and show your musical talent. So all you songwriters out there, stop out and grab a cider or a mead and tell them that the Songwriters Couch and the Patrick Joanne Band sent you. Again, Seed and Stone Cidery right here in Rochester, New York. Go out and visit them and let them know we sent you. Thanks, guys. All right, welcome to episode number 30. Oh man, I forgot what episode we're on. Episode 33, episode 32 of the Songwriters Couch.
30 something episode.
That's right, 30 something. It's getting to there. I'm looking forward to the episode number 100 because it's we'll have a big celebration. Then I might blow the place up. I'll blow my own house up. Just
awesome.
But I got a super special guest on. Before I get to our guest, though, I do want to thank our sponsors for making the show possible. I want to thank each and every one of you out there who watch and listen and comment and all that stuff, because you're the reason why I do this. And all the songwriters and people that have been on the show. I really appreciate y'all coming out and showing us your talents and showing the world what you do. I really love to see what's happening out there outside of what I'm doing artistically. So thank you all. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all that nonsense. And on today's show, we've got the one and only, the legendary Mr. Noshir Mody. Did I say your name correct? I have this thing with mispronouncing all my guests' names.
Oh,
yeah.
No worry, it's Noshir. Yeah, but close. Yeah, and I respond to everything. So it's
do
all
you?
good.
Okay. See, that's my problem too. My last name is so hard to pronounce. I'm just like, whatever you want to call me, it's fine. But welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks. I'm super excited to be here. And thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being on. And we do like a little get to know you. But before that, I want you to kind of introduce yourself, tell people kind of what you do, where they can find your stuff. Obviously, you got a cool QR code that you're a professional. I can tell from that. Yeah, the other side. There you go. But tell the people what you do, where they can find your stuff, and the like.
Yeah. So Noshir Mody, composer, guitarist, and producer. I play many styles, but primarily in the jazz fusion arena. And you can find I do have this fancy background with this QR code that'll take you to all my information. So feel free to scan it.
And it does go out on audio podcast as well. So maybe just say,
okay, yeah, absolutely. So my website is noshirmody.com, and Instagram handle is @Noshir Mody, which is NoshirMody.
Cool. And we'll definitely post all that stuff in the description as well. So welcome to the show. And what you may or may not know, based on whether or not you've actually watched or listened to what we do here, is we've started doing this 3 truths and a lie thing, right? So basically, tell me 3 things, and then I'm going to have to guess. And usually Allie's here to help me, and she's usually right, except the last 2 episodes I've been right. Surprisingly, 33 episodes, I think is 33 now. I've been right twice. Noshir.
Okay.
Noshir.
Wow.
So, yeah, she usually gets them correct. I think it's just women's intuition, is much better than mine. So,
I get the sense that Ali is pretty spot on with people. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all. Yeah,
that's true. It's good. It's a good thing I'm not a bear. Or I should be a bear, right? Isn't that the thing going on now? Probably by the time this it'll be a whole new thing, and no one will even remember what I'm talking about.
Sounds about right. That sounds like all my stories. So yeah.
So I don't have a theme song for this segment here, as we call it, but I'll some drum roll here. So give us one thing So three things, one of which is a lie.
Oh, so I tell you three things, and one of them is a lie. Two of
Yeah,
them are
about you.
truths.
About you. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh boy, this is and I guess I'm just clarifying here. The intent is that I should be able to fool you with the lie.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
or it could be outlandish, and I'd be like,
Yeah.
all right.
It
Um,
it depends how difficult it is sometimes on how well I know the person too. You know, if I've known them for years and years, sometimes it's harder to get
yeah,
it.
it's going to be like I'm struggling here. So I guess it's easy. So I'll start with the truth. So I was born and raised in India, for my first 22 years, and then took a plane and came to the US. So that's one thing. My
Don't tell
favorite
me which
place.
don't tell me which one is the lie too. So
Well, I was trying to kind of point you in the wrong direction with that kind of
I got you.
information, but
I got you.
but we'll see if this works. I may be overthinking this too.
Don't worry, you're
The
not going to get
most
kicked off the show or anything for.
That's right. Yeah. My second was this is my second time that I've been on your show, and I was there previously, and you kicked me off. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. Yeah. No.
We
The
take our
the
rules
most
around this very
yeah,
seriously.
the most beautiful place that I've ever been to is Alaska,
Mm.
and yeah, I went to conservatory in Denmark to study music. So there we go.
Huh. All right. Well, those are all things that are possibilities that I don't know which one is, in fact.
Ooh, I think I did well because you're squinting your eyes now. So
Yeah, I'm definitely thinking that. So grew up in India.
Mhm.
They have a little bit of an accent, but that doesn't mean much because you're from New York too. So you could have definitely your parents might have spoken, and so you have a little of an accent. Um, Denmark, that's a possibility too.
Mm. Should I be assisting you or
No,
just
no,
let?
no. Let me just
Yeah, yeah.
let me fail miserably in front of everyone here.
Or
Uh,
not?
I'm
Yeah.
you know what? I'm gonna go. I'm going to
Okay.
go with you grew up in India. I'm gonna say you threw me off.
By
And
saying it was the truth,
that's
right?
right. And in fact, that is the lie. So another drum roll.
And I love it. So I was able to convince you that it is the truth. I literally did grow up. I was born and raised in India
Okay.
and for 22 years and then came to New York. Uh, the lie is that I'm a self-taught musician. So I never went to conservatory. I never went to conservatory in Denmark. Though I
Excellent.
was mentored by somebody who was at the Conservatory of Denmark and taught. So I think that kind of
That's
yeah.
yeah, that's
But
nice.
in the US, yeah.
I was just about to ask that. What made you think of Denmark as the
I know.
lie part of it? You know?
I was scrambling. I was really scrambling here.
Well, I'm also sort of, I guess you can say, a self-taught musician because my father was a musician too. So I got a lot of kind of the basics of it and watching him perform and watching him record and practice with his
Yeah,
band and all that kind of stuff. But he basically taught me the open chords on guitar and then said, go and figure it out from there.
nice. And he
Um,
was a guitar player too.
Yep, he's a guitar player. My
Oh,
older brother
sweet.
is a
Yeah.
guitar player too, and he's a much better lead player than I am. Like he knows,
Okay.
sweep picking and all that. Because he learned to play by ear, but he learned to play by ear by learning Van Halen solos and stuff by
Oh
ear.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And so
That's
he,
crazy.
yeah, yeah, he's a little
For
bit.
real. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But I started out on bass and then went to rhythm guitar and just kind of stayed there. And then I found I really like songwriting more than I like playing lead
yeah,
guitar. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, but that's my thing there. So what made you move from India? Because you were 22 living there.
Yeah,
So
so the story goes is that my father was also a drummer, a jazz drummer, but he was not helpful to me at all. So he basically we had a kid and everything, and he had a whole huge collection of records, but and I had this burning desire to play music. So I would like sneak on the drums when he was there, or play his records when he wasn't at home, that kind of stuff. And I guess maybe that kind of like really I kindled the fire in me to kind of go and pursue music. And of course, as you may imagine, being a kid in India growing up, when I kind of approached my mother and said, "Hey, I want to become a musician," she was like, "What do you mean? If you're not going to become a doctor or an engineer, what are you going to do? Starve?" and that kind of really stuck with me. So I did become an engineer. I became a computer engineer when the field was just burgeoning. It was like, I think it was the second year that they were even offering it as an option. But I desperately wanted to play music my entire life. So my ticket out of India was to apply in college for my graduate studies. And at the time, we didn't have Google Maps or anything. We had like a little paper map, and I had to pull it out. And
Yeah.
and I applied to colleges right around New York City. And I came with my guitar, thinking that I'm just going to become a rock star once I come here. Of course, I end up getting my ass kicked, and
Yeah.
and just like it was rough going because I didn't know a soul in this country. And it's kind of stupidity you have to do when you're young and you don't know better. Because if I knew better, I would probably like rethink this whole plan. But on the bright side, it somehow, in some magical way, shape, and form, worked out. So
So,
things began to click. Yep.
so how did you? Well, before we get to how did you move here when you didn't know anyone,
Hmm.
just kind of
Yep.
showed up. I'm assuming you had some sort of thing set up where you could at least sleep the night when you arrived. But before
Yeah.
we'll get back to that in a second. I'm wondering, so I heard a similar story from our mutual friend Ricky Kej about
Okay.
and I don't know if I should even share this about maybe being told that being a musician there's not a career in it. Like being told like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm glad you like music, but do something else as your main thing. And what's funny about that too, and I don't know if that is a I don't think it's just a cultural thing in like India to say,
Hmm.
being a musician is a bad career choice. I think that's across the board. Every parent is like, don't pursue that, of all things. But my dad, even as a musician, always told me have something as a
Fallback.
fallback, have something in your back pocket as your job. And I think that to some extent prevented me from doing the stupid thing earlier than I did it. Because at some point in my life, I kind of said, wait a second, why I don't have to continue doing the like job that I hate.
Yep.
Like I
Hmm.
can because I can be working really hard at that and be miserable, or I can work really hard at something I love,
Something you love.
work
Yeah.
towards that while I'm doing this thing that I hate to support myself or whatever. So do you feel like your parents were just encouraging you to do that, like to move away from music just because?
Yeah, they wanted me. They weren't against me pursuing it as a hobby. They were fine with that. They just didn't want it to be my primary occupation. And I certainly see the merits of that. And if I had a kid, I would also caution. And I think a lot of my opportunities also opened up because I wasn't financially dependent on playing gigs as a source of income.
Mm,
So I'm at a position now where I can, uh, you know, have I can finance my own projects. I can choose to do the music I want to do. I That allows me to further explore my creativity.
yeah,
So as opposed to kind of doing gigs for money, basically.
right. Having to do
So
cover shows and weddings and
yeah,
that sort of stuff that,
exactly,
that always,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah,
So let me ask you.
because
Oh, go
sorry,
ahead.
go ahead. Oh no, I was saying because much like doing a job that doesn't give you joy, doing something like a wedding gig, where you're doing it just for the income, also can be soul sucking as well. I
Yeah,
would imagine. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I've tended to stay away from the wedding gig. I even for a long time was very much um just originals. That like
Right.
very dead set on I'm not gonna do maybe one cover that I like at like an open mic or something, I'll do it. But
Right.
if I play a show only original, and I'll say this, booking a band when you're first starting out as an all original rock band,
It's
and
rough.
and then expecting the musicians in your band too to also be okay with not getting paid for large years of time and playing to one or two people. You've got you have to have people in your band that are exactly the same mindset as you, that are like, I don't care about the money at first, let's do this, and then
Right.
maybe the money will come, but if it doesn't, uh, that's not why I'm doing it anyway. uh,
Right.
so what was the music scene like in India, if I may ask? So first of all, what part of India were you from?
Yeah. So Bombay, which is now called Mumbai, and that's the western part. It's kind of like the commercial capital of the country. Uh, you know, but yeah, but Mumbai was like growing up in New York. It was like super, you know, big city vibes. You know, we at that time, which was much more innocent than it is today. You know, we would walk to school, we take a cab to school, we jump on public transportation. I'd fall off buses because everybody's hanging out at the bus. You know, it's just like we would go play cricket in the in the building across the street, and your parents would yell to you, "Dinner is ready." You
Yeah.
come back. You know, it's just like one of those things that we weren't like. You know, we didn't have the digital leashes like or the helicopter. I don't think you know, we would just say we're going to come back in the evening at sundown. Like that was, you know, our time. Like it wasn't
Yeah.
7:30, 6:30. At sundown, show you better come back home. And if you don't, you're going to get a beating, you know? So we all showed up on time too. So that's how I grew up. And the music scene was, you know, like in college, it was a pretty, I wasn't a great musician, but you know, actually I wasn't a great musician until I came to New York and really got my ass handed to me. But I was playing college bands and I was a popular kid. I was riding a motorcycle in college and stuff like that. And that kind of, you know, I guess the cliche being a musician in college scene. Uh, but you know, Guns N' Roses, Pink Floyd, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Growing up and at least in India. And then when I came here, I got exposed more to the jazz scene, and then that was, and I didn't, because I didn't know anybody. All I did was, you know, 8, 10 hours in my little room that I was renting, and with the guitar. That was my only friend, my only acquaintance. So I think that really helped me kind of you know, develop my skill set. And that, you know, I think I sucked for a really long time, and then somewhere something, the bulb went off, and you know, the facility kind of kicked in, and the appreciation for more sophisticated music kind of got a hold of me, and then I was just like listening more, you know, just developed my chops over a period of time.
Do you feel like there wasn't a ton of jazz, or at least like American, real like down dirty kind of jazz, if you get what I'm saying by down and
Yeah,
dirty,
yeah.
like New
No, so
York style jazz, or like in India? Could you get, or were you exposed to any of that while you were there, or not really?
not so much in a live setting, but my father had this humongous library of records, and he was actually a member of, like, I guess at those times you used to have like a record library where you'd go pick out the new record that came out, um, copy to tape, like, you know, cassette, and then return the record, the album. And he had like, I don't know, thousands of albums, if I'm not mistaken, just like but all like Cannonball Adderley and Coltrane and Davis and Michael Jackson. And so I really grew up with that. And it was the anomaly. It wasn't the norm, right? For some reason, I guess him being a jazz drummer, he was inclined to listen to all this stuff, Hubert Laws and stuff. So I grew up listening to it. So when I did come to the States, the transition, when I kind of gave up trying to play rock, you know, or
Yeah.
at least following the Guns N' Roses kind of
Well, that was
slash route.
that was what, 94 probably, right?
95,
95.
95,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was like the giant.
Exactly.
Well, I guess Nirvana and all the alternative bands were kind of around then too.
Yeah.
Uh,
Pearl Jam, I think it may had just, maybe they just came out like a years two before, I don't know, with the 10 album, which was spectacular,
yeah.
you know.
Have you heard their
But
new
yeah,
album, by the way? Pearl
I
Jam.
have not. No.
It's pretty
Yeah.
good. I watched them. I watched a couple of interviews recently. I don't know why I've been just being fed that through YouTube. You know, like the
Right,
Pearl
right.
Jam thing. I think they're on a big promotional thing to get their album.
Nice.
But
Yeah.
I was into all that same stuff too. And what's funny is, being that my dad was a musician, I was exposed to a lot of, like, he was definitely into the classic rock, the typical kind of 60s,
Okay.
Jimi Hendrix, Beatles. He's really into the Beatles.
Right,
Pink
right.
Floyd,
Rolling Stones.
yeah, Rolling
Yeah.
Stone, all that kind of stuff. Way more into the Beatles than anything else. But I got exposed to a lot of that stuff. And then my older brother was into like the hair metal, the Van
Hmm.
Halens, the Megadeth,
Europe.
the
Megadeth. Yeah.
Metallica, like all that kind of stuff from the 80s. And then being that I was 3 years younger than him, in the 80s in New York, hip hop was coming, you
Yeah.
know. So I got exposed to a lot of like the Fat Boys. I don't even know if you do you know the Fat Boys at all? They were like around for a
Okay.
little while. Rap group Run DMC. As a matter
Oh
of fact,
yeah.
I got to meet Damien from Run DMC in the airport with my daughter on the way back from the Grammys in LA. Not this last time, maybe 3 years ago or whatever.
Okay.
My daughter had no idea who he was, but I recognized him. I'm like, oh shit, that's what Damien from Run DMC. So I have a picture of him. But I was exposed to like a lot of hip hop, and then the '90s when moved to
Hmm.
the United States, the grunge era, like Nirvana and Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains, all those bands were like wow. Uh, what I think that era of music gave me was, oh, I could do that. I can make
Yeah.
noise like Nirvana's making on something in the house. You know what I mean?
Right.
Get away with that being music. So you're banging on the drums of your dad, your dad's
Yeah.
kit while he's away. I think that there's something to that. But then you also put yourself in a situation where you got to New York and you're in isolation. And I think every teenage musician, especially in that era in the '90s, if you were a teenager and you had an instrument in your house, the people that seemed to gravitate towards music were tended to be the kids that were like I'm not a cool kid. I'm not necessarily in the nerd group. I'm not like I like everyone, and
Right. Right.
but I don't necessarily want to talk to everyone or hang out with everyone. So you sit in your room and you play your instrument all day and you learn, like for me, I wrote a lot. I wrote a lot of lyrics.
Right.
Didn't have music to it because I wasn't as musically technically sound as my brother and my dad.
Mhm.
But there was music constantly around me and brought me into that. So even though maybe you don't think your dad had an influence, I think he probably did.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I don't want to give that impression. Like, he wasn't helpful. Like, he never sat down with me and said, "Play this,
Yeah, yeah.
play that, do this, do that." But yeah, probably the single most, or the single biggest influence in music, just having the music in the house, 24/7, every time I was around, listening to the Western style music as opposed to what was playing, in India at the time. That, has really shaped me who I am today, at least from a musical
And
perspective.
and I think that too. I, I haven't quite settled on what I really think about this, but I almost feel like music is you're genetically predisposed to be a musician or a creative in some way, shape, or
Mm,
form based on your family heritage. Because everyone I know that's a musician either had someone in their family that was, that played music or multiple people in their family. And you
yeah.
could say, okay, it's just because there was music all the time, but most people have the radio on, there's music playing in their house, but they don't become musicians and want to make it with I even hesitate on the word want to make it because there's a, a need, you have to do it. And I think that we can relate to that because
Yeah.
I could almost tell right away from you that like, oh yeah, we're similar people. Do you feel like you can't get away from it, even if you want to
Oh,
not be a
yeah.
musician, you know?
I think it becomes like this thing that gets a hold of you when you realize that process of trying to create music is it's somehow healing you in your endeavor of doing it. I feel like that when it just happens, you realize that, oh, I'm at peace, I'm calmer, I'm more relaxed, I'm doing some focus, and then you're like, oh, I miss that feeling. You're almost like jonesing for getting back to the instrument. And I feel once that bug bites you, it becomes really hard to like not have it in your life in some shape or form. I'm not saying you have to turn into like the world's greatest guitar player or anything, but certainly, you feel like you begin to carve out time in your day to kind of spend time with the instrument. And
Do,
I'm a big believer of that.
do you and this is only for me to feel like someone else feels what I do. Have you ever had the feeling like I just want to give up on all this music stuff? And then the very next day you're like, yeah, no, I'm not doing that.
So I took it one step further, and because I had an engineering degree, and finally I got a really good paying job, and I didn't have to do music to make money, so I stopped performing and recording for 7 years, which was insane. and I realized that I became like the worst version of myself. I was
Mm.
just a very dark person during that time frame. And then I realized that, yeah, I don't have to make music, but I need to make music. So even though I wasn't performing, recording, I was like I was just talking about, I always was playing music, writing songs, stuff like that. And then I felt like, it's not doing anybody any good if nobody's ever going to hear this material, because during that period I also started becoming really good. And then I was like, I gotta take this out. And I met my wife at the same time, and she always takes credit, because when she met me, she says I was very dark, and now I'm a little
Well,
lighter. Yeah,
I have met your wife, and she's
yeah,
she's very encouraging and very supportive of
yeah.
you
She's super.
doing it,
Yeah.
because it's tough. I think I had this conversation with Javi Torres, was on the episode, well, not like maybe 3 episodes ago, and he's a touring drummer.
Mhm.
So he plays. There's a band called Taking Back Sunday. That I think is probably still big. I don't know a lot of their stuff, but I guess the guitar player or something started a band. He's in their band, and he played with Cardi B at one point, like drums for her and whatever. And we were talking about just the importance of having someone, especially if you're in a relationship, uh,
Yeah.
that understands it and kind of accepts you, be like, knows that it's a need and not a I just want to
Yeah.
get on stage so I can see a bunch of groupies kind of thing.
Yeah.
That if you're with the wrong partner, that's what they think is happening. Oh, you want to do that so
Oh,
you can go out and party and but
for
that's
sure.
the last part of it. Like, I just want to be on stage playing the music. All the everything else around it is like a pain in the ass to me. Like the setting it up, the taking it down, the like the talking to people. If I could get
Yeah.
rid of everything and just stick to the playing on stage, I think that would be my ideal situation.
Yeah. I think
But
I don't know if you have the same pet peeve, but man, if I could say I hate scheduling, I
yeah,
hate scheduling. I can't seem to get musicians to be available at the same date. It's like, now we got Doodle and all these little things that everybody fills out. And you see everybody filling out, and nobody will have the common times.
yeah.
I'm like, are you looking at everybody else's calendar or not? So I do find that, amusing, but also, man, scheduling is the biggest pain in my butt when
Yeah.
it comes to kind of getting music out there.
Especially as like
Yeah.
a band leader, it can
Yeah.
be, that could be the biggest challenge, is the scheduling everyone, and especially if you're in a group where you're not necessarily, it's not your band, but you've got people like players coming in and out,
Right.
playing with other. It's what a nightmare that is. So
Yeah.
let me ask you this other
Sure.
question before we get into okay, you moved to New York, right?
Hmm.
So my dad, when he was growing up, he was 5 years old when he moved here from Brittany in France, right?
Oh,
So
wow.
he's from
Okay.
Breton. And what's funny is, though, so my aunt, or aunt, however you want to say it, my aunt, um, was also, I believe, born. I forget how much younger she is, but anyway, so he moved here when he was 5. The Beatles were around when he was growing up and all that kind of stuff. He has no interest. I mean, to a certain extent, he likes French food, right? So he likes
Hmm.
like pate and
Yeah.
crepes and all that sort of stuff. No interest in French music. No, I don't think he has any real desire to go back there ever again. Uh,
Okay.
he kind of has like a, oh no, that's old people stuff,
Yeah.
like approach to French culture, like, oh, that's back there. Like, I'm a New Yorker, I'm an American.
Right.
And so he doesn't necessarily have, like, Edith Piaf, he can't stand. He hates her, and I'm like, I love you.
Yeah, she's great. Yeah.
All that old French music from like the back then. Um, do you have that similar kind of feeling? Like, how do you feel about like Indian music, and like
I love it. I
that
and I
genre?
think my thing is also to blend the East and the West.
Mm,
And I feel like I mean, I feel like I had the best of both worlds, because the Eastern culture really has a lot of gravitas to it,
yeah.
and the Western culture empowers you to to do stuff, if
You can say
if that
shit.
makes sense.
You can curse.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. Yeah. So to do shit.
Yeah.
I feel like it's more, it's the culture is more obedient in the East. Like, that I guess that's why, kids are all studying, and, there isn't that much room for you to kind of get out on your own and do your own thing. But in the West, I feel like that is encouraged. So they almost expect it, be your individuality to kind of express yourself. So I feel like when you do get to live in both sides of the world, it really is the best of.
Hmm.
Uh,
Do do you think that so I know so I grew up in like I said in Queens,
mhm.
right? A huge Indian culture.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I was so used to like having great Indian food and like
Yep.
going into the city and there's a lot of Indian places. There was this whole strip, I forget where it was now, down in the East Village somewhere where you could bring your own liquor in. So we
Okay.
always have like, live Indian bands playing. And you could go there,
Okay.
and then you could bring your own bottle of booze in. So it was like the perfect thing for me. I would just go there,
Right.
a little bottle of whiskey or something or whatever, sit down, eat some Indian food, watch some good music. Um, and so I got exposed to kind of a lot of that stuff,
Hmm.
the music, and what I love about Indian music and Eastern music in general, is I feel like Western music, like simplified tone,
Hmm.
almost to its detriment. Where so like Indian music and East Asia, I mean, Japanese music, I don't know if necessarily Japanese music, but so they're like half tones and stuff that are
Yeah, yeah.
in
Microtones. Yeah.
music that doesn't exist in
Well, the
American.
blues has it. Blues has it, to an extent as well. But I definitely get your point. It's not to
Yeah,
the
so there's like
extent that the
it,
other cultures explore it.
so for
Yeah.
what maybe people don't know what I'm talking about. So like in
Right.
between every note, like in American music, it might be, or in Western, I should say Western
Yeah.
music, that there's like it would sound out of key or not something's not
Or tune.
quite
Yeah.
right. Yeah. But
Yeah.
there are tones in between each of those notes, maybe
Yep.
100 tones in between those two notes that could be explored that no one is because your ear is so accustomed to these,
Yep.
the normal kind of lullaby tones in Western culture. Do you ever try and do, because jazz is very exploratory.
Hmm.
Do you
Yep.
ever, so you're saying you're mixing.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely do. I love the harmonic scale, stuff like that. So that's right up my alley. Uh, I and also I think when you're immersed in a culture, you have the sensibilities, right? So when you phrase your uh, solo or whatever, you gravitate towards kind of. And I brought the blues up earlier because you find that blues players do this all the time as well. They're constantly bending, so they're running that gamut for all the microtones and kind of getting that that
Yeah, I
those
never thought
colors in there. Yeah.
I never
So
thought of it that way. Yeah,
yeah,
like with the bends and the
exactly. I mean, you
even
hear
Guns N' Roses as like so like oh, what's his name now? Jesus.
Slash.
No, the Axl Rose. Oh my
Oh,
God.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
But he'll do those like the
Oh,
wind
yeah, yeah.
up,
Yeah,
you know.
Ray
So
Charles does that a lot. When he sings, it kind of goes up a little bit. But in Western music, they would consider that, oh, he's off pitch, but it's not necessarily considered off pitch. We think, yeah, that's great. It adds some flavor to whatever is being sung or played.
do you happen to know, is there like I would suppose there probably is a specific theory around how to use those in Indian
Oh,
music?
that
Or is there,
probably is. I would, yes, I would, because it's
not that you're an expert
hundreds,
in
yeah,
Indian?
100, but it's 100. The culture goes up thousands of years, if not hundreds of years. So I'm certain that they've explored it. I just haven't studied it, so I can't really tell you which raga does it in which particular way.
Yeah,
But yeah, but certainly people spend a lot of time trying to get that tonality in place.
yeah. So, all right, so let's get back to you showing
Sure.
up in New York. You swam there, right?
I
Fresh,
did. So no, I
fresh
didn't
stroke.
swim, but to your point earlier, you raised a really the perfect. Like, how does somebody come to another country, doesn't know anybody, where do you sleep, where do you eat? These are all great questions. And
How did you even
yeah, So I'll tell you in my case what happened. So, in India, I didn't even have the degree in my hand that I from my computer engineering college, because there was like such an exodus of kids like just applying to colleges and getting out of there, because the US was considered like this promised land where all dreams come true kind of thing, you
Hmm.
know. And I came from a rough home background. Like my parents didn't get
I
along, they
wonder if
got
it's still
divorced.
I wonder if it's still thought of that of like that. But anyway,
I don't know. I don't know if it, because we have so much social media and so on. So all the stories get out there. But I applied to college and I got into New Jersey Institute of Technology, and because of its proximity to New York City, I was like, I'm in, because it was Newark, New Jersey. I said, let me go there. And what the colleges do is they put you up in a dorm for 10 days, and then you have 10 days to find another living accommodation, which if you don't find, you're out on the street basically. So that was my predicament. I came here and I had this Romanian kid I was rooming with for those 10 days, and I didn't find a place to sleep and or stay. And I was like,
yeah.
I happened to run into like serendipitously run into a school friend who also happened to be at NGIT at the same time. I slept on his floor for I think 2 nights, and now he's like a hotshot at Johnson and Johnson, and but these are memories we have, right? Where he had a Honda Civic, and I thought, man, this kid has made it. He's like he's got a Honda Civic again. My perspective is from India. Only the rich people had Honda Civics at the time, and and then
Oh,
and so I
I'm actually surprised by that. You because Japan is
yeah.
actually closer to India,
Well,
right? Than it would be
well,
to us. Is it?
yeah. The
Maybe not.
economy when India got its independence was a closed economy. They wanted to
So
make
yeah, that's
everything,
the
yeah.
word
So they weren't
important.
importing stuff that much. But so I couldn't stay at this kid's place all the time. So but the Romanian guy goes like, "Oh, my landlord, he doesn't really have a place right now, but you can go speak to him, and maybe he'll work something out." So I showed up, and the guy goes like, "I have a room vacating in a month, but I don't have any place until then. But I do have a closet. If you want to stay in the closet, you can." And I'm not making this shit up. That it was a closet, so they just put a mattress in the closet. I had, my suitcase, so
Mhm.
there's no place to put anything like clothes or anything. So suitcase on the floor, mattress on the floor, and I slept there and kind of like walked down the corridor to go use the bathroom situation for a month until the room became vacant. And and that was how I kind of came to this country. And I keep saying I got my ass kicked, but yeah, that was a big life lesson that I learned really quick.
That's amazing. So one of the things it's funny too because I had this guy Madero on the show,
Mhm.
um Jose Madero. He won the Colombian X Factor 3 years ago or something like that. And I started talking to
Okay.
him about that
Oh,
too.
he's
Like
performing on May 22nd, right?
he said he might if he can get back.
Okay.
He had a temporary, I don't know if it was a visa or something he was coming in for a few weeks. He
Okay.
can make it back in time, then he will. But yeah, maybe we should talk about that too. So May
Yeah.
22nd, because it's going to come out next Monday, which is before that show. So myself and Noshir, correct me if I'm saying it.
Not sure. Yeah, yeah, no worries.
Not
Yeah, that's
sure.
good.
I'm gonna
It's
say
like you're
I'm
it's
gonna get
like
it right.
you're not sure, Patrick. You gotta be like,
Okay.
not
Not
sure in
not
me.
sure.
Yeah.
I hate saying people's names wrong because I do it often. And a lot of times I'm speaking to people over the internet
Right.
more than I'm speaking to them in person. So but we're gonna be playing a show at Pianos in New York City, and it's gonna be myself, you, Jerome,
Mhm.
Brooks Jr., and actually a good friend of mine from back in grade school, as a matter of fact.
Oh wow. Okay.
And so, yeah, the reason that happened is because I've always loved his style of music. He plays kind of funk. Uh,
Hmm.
he was when he was doing his band, and when we were growing up together, there's a memory I have of him from I think it was maybe seventh grade. We had gone on a school trip to go ice skating at where do they put the tree up there in New York
Oh,
City?
Rockefeller Center.
Rockefeller Center, right?
Yeah.
So we're going on this trip, and on that trip, we were kids. We were in seventh grade or whatever. So I forget how old you are there. 11 or 12 or something like that. And he had gotten, I think, $5, a $5 bill from his parents or his dad or whatever to buy some food or something on this trip. And we're walking. We had taken the subway into the city, just like you in India,
Right.
like 11-year-old kids on the subway in New York City back
Exactly.
then,
Yeah.
which is another reason why I think we get along so well. But anyway, he saw a homeless person there on the street that was asking for change, and he gave his whole $5 to them. And I don't know why that stuck with me so much, but just this thought,
Right.
like this kid just get, and maybe the homeless guy was a drug addict, didn't deserve it, whatever. But the thought of his
Compassion.
selflessness
Yeah.
at that age, and me not even thinking to do that at that age, like what am I going to give to this person, inspired me to want to be better
Yeah.
at that age. And so, but he's also a musician and he would take dance classes and stuff. Like he's a good musician. So he's going to be performing. So I asked him to be on too, because he still lives in New York City right now. And I would love to see him perform live because I have never seen him perform live. And he as well has never seen me perform live. And so I brought him onto the show as well. And it's at Pianos New York City and down in Lower East Village. So if you're around, it is May 22nd from 7 to 9 p.m. We're going to have some food there. There'll be a bunch of celebrities there, whatever you want to call celebrities. But it'll be a great night of music. And I think it'll be a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
everyone come out, $10 cover charge, cheap to get in. Super cool venue. They've been great to deal with. So everyone should come out. So I got off track here talking about that.
No,
But
no, that was good though, because I'm really looking forward to performing
yeah,
too. And
yeah.
I'm getting to see you live, see you perform for the first time as well.
Yeah, and we have this little like group of musicians that tend to get together that I don't even know if I'm allowed to mention the Recording Academy, but that are kind of part of that. And we get together at like Grammy season and stuff. And we talk a lot and we end up partying together. But I feel like a lot of us don't get to see each other perform. And
Yeah.
I don't think anyone from that group has actually seen me perform with my band. And speaking of people wanting to like just go do something and not giving a fuck about, okay, how much am I getting paid or whatever. My whole band is coming down too, and they're going to stay in one little hotel room all together, four dudes all in one room. So it should
That's
be,
awesome.
yeah, it should be fun. We're trying to do it on the cheap. I'm like, all right, I'll pay for you guys. We'll get the hotel room,
Right.
whatever. All the food's paid for and all that stuff. Just come down. It'll be a fun time. So, that'll be fun. And I'm super excited about seeing your band uh,
Thank you.
perform. Well, why don't we talk about that a little bit? So,
Sure.
what are we going to see there? I know you were working on some new recordings and stuff.
Yes.
Must be
So
amazing.
in early June, we're recording my next album that'll come out later this year. And we're accepted going into record down in Brooklyn at Bunker Studio. And so my sax player is actually traveling that day. So very unfortunately, he
Hmm.
will not be able to join us, but we will have the rest of the band. And the album is called Abstractions. It's kind of like hush hush right now, so I don't know how much to talk about it or not. But I am just over the moon. I'm thrilled about the material. It's I feel like with all my albums, it takes me a lifetime to if I wrote the album at 45, it took me 45 years of understanding life and nature to kind of put that material together. I'll turn 52 this year. I feel like that entire lifespan of understanding has been brought into this album, and we're also approaching it a little differently this time. You know, we're not doing piano, which I typically almost always have in my ensembles. We're doing the Nord Stage 3, and my piano player has actually been on me for years because I think this is the fourth project we're doing together. I hope I got that right. Maybe it's more, maybe it's less. I don't know, but I've known him for almost a decade now, and he's been like, man, I your music would sound so much cooler with like maybe some electronic, maybe like keys or Rhodes and organ.
Yeah.
And he's spot on. So I'm really, really loving the sound now that we're getting. We've got two horns, the keys, we've got the electric bass, which again is a departure because mainly focused on the upright, but I felt this was, and we have drums and a vocalist as well, and then we're going to do some really interesting 1-2 minute interludes between the five major pieces of the album to kind of set things up, and use a very specific harmonic palette for the entire album. So yeah, if I'm gushing, I'm really, really excited about it. And I
Well,
apologize for gushing.
no,
Yeah.
no, no. That's great because this project I have yet to release as well, and on that day, as a matter of fact, May 22nd is when the song is going to be released. That I'm doing too.
Awesome. Oh,
Uh,
by the way, I did sign up for your pre-release.
oh, you did?
So
Oh,
I've got your song, so I'm waiting for it to be released so I can listen
I
to it.
I appreciate
Yeah.
that. Yeah, and I should probably do a shameless
Yeah.
plug too. So, the music saved me. I've decided to not do a pre-save on um on the streaming platforms either a couple of days before, or maybe not at all.
Hmm.
um Simply because I feel so Spotify has made this move to, okay, anyone under 1,000 streams or something doesn't get paid. I'm not a fan of that. You have to release your music on Spotify, not because I'm not going to get paid from it, because 1,000 streams, okay, I'll surpass that easily, but for like young artists coming out, it's almost like you're not going to give them even a chance
Hmm.
to a $5 check for a young songwriter or a young musician is like the spark that starts a Kendrick Lamar. Um,
Great.
a venue, a bar that says, you know what, you've never played a show before, come up, be terrible, have three of your
Yep.
friends in the audience and play. For that person, it's again the spark that starts the fire that breeds people like a Jimi Hendrix or a Taylor Swift, if that's your stuff, or whatever. And so I've decided to not do that and just do the pre-order.
Hmm.
One, on a selfish level, because we need to actually recoup some of the money of the recording process and all that.
Sure.
But two, I don't think what they're doing is right. So I don't want to promote Spotify or a streaming service over purchasing and owning your music, as well as a buyer of music or a consumer of music. I'd rather own the music than have a streaming platform own it. And then let's say you're 70 and you want to hear that music, and they've decided, oh, only 150 people listen to this song, so we're just going to take it off,
Right.
and you never get to hear that song again. I think that's a future that is going to happen, and I'm not a fan of that. And so I think purchasing it is kind of, I'd like to push people towards that, and give them a reason to, right? Like
Hmm.
it's really good music. But anyway, comes out on the 22nd. We're going to release it that day. We've got a making of video. We've got a live performance in the studio video. I've got 2 lyric videos that are going to come out on that day, along with the making of and
Awesome.
the live performance of it. And then we're gonna have a theatrical music video that's gonna come out in the summer. That's gonna be more of a official music video, that sort of thing. And then, of course, we have that awesome show we're going to do where we're going to be releasing a bunch of new stuff. And I'm assuming you're going to be performing new material as well.
Yeah, yeah. All new
That day.
material.
So,
Yeah.
and I'm hoping Jerome does that as well.
Yep.
And I'm sure Joey said he's actually forming a little 3-piece or 4-piece specifically for this. It's gonna be like a low key acoustic thing, all new music. And he's like, I haven't played in like a few years, and I'm really excited about actually doing this. It's kind of like lighting a fire under me to do it.
Yep.
I love being that spark. So again, a little selfish, the reasons for the show is because I love seeing other musicians be happy. But so this studio in Brooklyn, how did you find that? Was that like somewhere you've recorded before, or was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've been recording this since 2014, if I'm not mistaken.
And just another shout
Uh,
out, if you like them. What's the name of their?
oh, Bunker. Yeah, Bunker. So let me just start by saying I absolutely love the studio. I love the people in there. They've got it right. These are the owners of the studio, are people who built the studio by hand, by themselves and their friends. It's really a spectacular facility. Aaron Nevezy and John Davis are the owners, and very artist friendly. Uh, and because I guess I've been going there for all these years, they may just everything just works. And I know every time I go there, I say the same thing to these guys. I love this because it works. You're out of the way. Musicians can make music, and the way we record is the whole band gets in. We're isolated, with bogos or isolation booths, and we just do take. And so we'll nail it with take, maybe a little cleanup here, there. We'll do that, and then that's it, which is pretty stressful considering and we record an entire album in a day, and this is not uncommon in the jazz world. But to have that entire studio function as a well-oiled machine, I hats off to these guys. They do it day in, day out, and they do it really well. And it's really easy to work with them. So
why so I'm in agreement with you,
right.
On records, because that's what we did with this as well. So this particular band that I have now, a lot of the members that are in it now were had joined, or we had created it, or we had come together in the midst of the pandemic. So recording was kind of our first album. Second album was okay. We're all recording. We played together, whatever. We had the songs set. We would record each part separately, then we'd bring them together, mix mastered remotely. So everyone was doing their own stuff, which is nice because you could do your take over and over and over again. You don't have to feel embarrassed about like, oh, I'm wasting money and time doing this. We were doing it at home.
Right.
But for this particular song, I really wanted us to be in the studio together because the energy that comes from that, in my opinion, you can't get from doing those parts separately because you're feeding off of each other. And I know you want to chime in here. It's just probably why you recorded it that way, right? But one of the funnest things about this particular recording was this guy, Brian Moore, who's the engineer on it. Fucking genius, by the way, Tone Studios, where we did it here in Rochester. If you get the chance to come up to Rochester, that's
okay.
The fucking studio you got to go to. Little pricey, but Brian is a fucking genius. And so one of the things he said afterwards, he's like, you guys played to a click, but you weren't exactly on the, on the grid. But you guys were so in sync with each other that you were perfectly in time with each other, even though you were slightly off the click. He's like, but I'd rather not lock you to the grid. Anyone that's done recording will know what I mean by locking you to the grid. Yeah. But I didn't want to lock you to the grid because it felt so good
natural
and roll in that way, and it was just slightly off, so I could actually work with it, in post. And I think that was probably one of the biggest compliments I've ever like. It was like, yeah, we were like so like in sync with each other that we don't need the click. We don't need to be locked in after the fact. We were just there.
Plus, I think that's, you're absolutely right. I want to jump all over this conversation because that's what being human is. If we were all playing perfect time, it's Jimi Hendrix didn't play that way. Even his singing was a little off, but it sounded like it connected with you on a humanity level. And I feel like that's, what gets lost in the shuffle. There are many ways to make an album, and people can play to click tracks and have perfect time and perfect pitch and all that kind of stuff, and that's fine. You can do everything in post, and it's all like perfect. But at the end of the day, people are moved by the humanity of the performance, and I feel like you want to capture that, and I don't know how else to capture it, including chemistry between a band, right? I think that's what my ensemble, what we really pride ourselves on is that the band has chemistry. We can go in different directions at different times on the fly. Boom, one guy goes up in another way. The whole band will kind of move with that. Everybody's moving, in sync, and it's a beautiful thing to behold. And to be able to kind of perform it with that level of artistry, it's pretty special, especially now with AI and things that are coming out pretty much routine and canned in a manner to kind of still to be performing with everything that makes us human, is in my opinion still pretty special.
So let me ask you this: can we talk at all? I know you went on a trip recently, right? About that particular topic. And I want to be careful about what I include in here because
I was in DC. Yeah, and I can certainly share. Yeah, so the Recording Academy hosts Grammys on the Hill. They have a whole entire Grammy advocacy arm that helps uh, serve the music industry.
To get
With
legislation in place
Congress,
to protect
exactly, Congress and Senate.
songwriters and
So they do this every year, and they just had the Grammys on the Hill, and they had an inaugural future forum that discussed artificial intelligence and its impact on the music industry, and it was really really impressive to for them to start this conversation. We don't have all the answers, but it's important that we start discussing this. There's so many implications from AI, and why is the academy doing this right now is because they want to protect the human creator. Of course we know that uh, it's going to really revolutionize the way people make music, and that's not a bad thing, that's a great thing. But at the same time, you want to be able to protect the human creator. You don't want to stifle human creativity, or feel like you just punch in some prompts and now all of a sudden you have music and that's viable.
yeah.
That using somebody else's likeness, somebody else's style, and they're not compensated for it or they're not rewarded for it. So we want to be careful that we have the correct safeguards in place to kind of achieve that agenda. And to that end, that was it was a great uh,
Do you,
great presentation to attend and be part of.
do you feel like they've got a good grasp on the like the full? So here's where so we're gonna get into it because
Mm-hmm.
you're a technical guy.
Sure.
I'm definitely a nerd myself. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll say that. I know how to break
I'm
down.
a big nerd. Yeah, I'm a big,
I can
yeah.
definitely break down an IP address into its bits. It's
Oh,
zero.
good for you. Yeah, yeah.
I'm a networking guy. So one of the things that worries me about it is not necessarily that musicians won't be able to make music that's impactful. I think there's always going to be the human, um, the musician. Like I said, it's a need, it's not a want. So I feel like musicians are going to continue to make music, and AI is going to be influenced by human made music, right? And I think in
Mm-hmm.
that regard, you're never going to get completely rid of humans. What I worry about a little bit, which has already taken place in some sense by the pop music industry, is the formulaic dumbing down of the music that's being served to everyone.
Yeah, yeah. I
And it's very easy to say, okay, so I'm going to be able to sell millions and millions of this song or put this in as a company, let's say. So as like a business venture, right? Okay, I'm gonna have AI write a song. That's what's gonna be in the movie that makes a bunch of money. So the movie can just have AI write it. They're making all the money all that off of that movie. That movie influences people to want to download that song and listen to it. So they're listening to it. And I feel like eventually it's going to pop music already has this formula to it that they know will sell. And I think it's going to take it. I see it already happening. Like it's
Mhm.
this strange. As a matter of fact, I watched a video. This guy Rick Beato. Do you know
Yeah,
Rick?
yeah. Yep, yes.
He lives here in Rochester. He just got I think last night actually they had the Rochester Music Hall of Fame or whatever.
Okay.
He was an inductee in that. So um he talked about listening to I think his either his son or his daughter, I think it was his son playing something and his guitar was out of tune. Um,
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you saw that
I
episode,
saw the episode, yeah, where he
and he's
was,
talking about
yeah.
people not really getting like, okay, is it meant to be that way or is it not? Whereas I feel like 20 years ago, if you heard something like a guitar was out of tune in a song, like you would recognize it and be like, that sounds like shit. Um, and it's,
Right, right,
I
right.
know we were
It's,
talking about half tones earlier, but there
yep.
is some structure to songs and musicality. And I feel like now there's like a music illiteracy that's happening that I believe AI may make worse. because it's going to be distilled to this thing. Okay, how can we make the most money off of it? Versus what a musician does, you tend to want to balance that. Yes, I want to make money, but I also want to like not sell my soul to the devil every time. AI doesn't have that conscience to do that. And so I feel like it's going to say, I just want to make as much money as possible. How simple can I make this so that the most people want to listen to it? And it's going to be nursery rhymes, but made by AI for adult consumption, which I don't know what that's going to do to people, but I feel like music is such an important part of like, I feel like
Yeah,
that's why music is so important in education is because
yeah.
it makes you think. Um, and
You know, I feel like I don't mean to cut you off,
yeah,
but I
no,
feel like
go for
there's
it.
good, like with anything, there's good and bad, right? So I think what AI will do is it'll lower the barrier to entry. So that's going to basically bring in more people that will probably want to be involved with music. So that's a good thing. I think it may also give rise to a lot of predatory practices because now all of a sudden if everybody can make music, it's people are going to exploit it. So I feel like ultimately it's a tool. Depends on how it's used ethically, it's used, appropriately. And if, again, like I mentioned earlier, we have the right safeguards in place, we'll have a good future. But repeatedly in history, this has always been the way things
Yeah.
have
Yep.
developed, right?
I agree.
When the
I,
fast food chain came out, everybody was like, "Oh my God, what is this crap you're eating?" But then it take off, and you still have your gastronomical experiences, and you have your fast food, and depending on and fast food sure became this billion-dollar industry, and maybe that hurt dining out or whatever. But you still have both, and options are not necessarily a bad thing. People will kind of cyclically sway towards one option, then to the other, and this kind of goes on through history. The drum machine came out. I remember people like, "Oh, this is garbage. It's not moving. It's not grooving. It's to the grid." Now being on the grid is sought after, so it
yeah.
kind of all this stuff comes and goes. But I think at the end of the day, we as a community of musicians, of artists, people who are watching this as it happens in our lifetimes, the advent of AI, we just need to kind of uh, understand that together we have a voice, and we should voice it to kind of express that, we don't want to be exploited. We don't want to be, taken advantage of. We don't want, to your point, people just running AI to create music and not paying the human creator. So I think we need to participate. And I think what typically happens is when communities or industries do not allow themselves to
Yeah.
have a common voice, yeah, they get taken advantage of. And I think we're too far down in history not to know this at this point. So I feel we
Oh,
should.
you're
Yeah,
saying musicians have been
yeah,
exploited in the past?
yeah, exactly, right. But or
Yeah.
unions or whatever,
Yeah,
whichever way you look at it,
that's
the
true.
minute the minute you don't have a collective voice or a collective, ability to express yourself and your needs and your wants and your desires, then you end up getting taken advantage of.
So as a personal question, do you feel like
Mhm.
the discussions that were being had were productive?
Yeah, well, a lot of people were probably hearing that for the first time. I mean, we're something that we haven't even scratched the surface of is AI can use a person's likeness, and this was one of the conversations I was having at the reception after our discussion. Was that for example, let's say, the normal process is humans artists, they become phenomenal. They have a small period, 5-10 years, where their voices are fantastic. They can hit all the high notes, they can
Yeah.
project the entire range. Then they age, then that finesse goes away. But AI could kind of do 19-year-old Michael Jackson, and every song they create with AI could have the characteristics of that voice. So what that means is in perpetuity you would have like the best years of a certain artist. Is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? I don't know. It's kind of like your appreciation for somebody taking care of themselves, being in good health, right?
Well,
It goes away.
yeah,
Yep.
that's funny because would we not, would we appreciate the moments that we have in our lives more or less
Exactly.
if we didn't die, right? I think death is a part of life because it gives you the foresight to do your best with the years that you have. If we live forever, um,
Yeah.
we might think, oh, tomorrow I'll do it.
Or it could
Tomorrow
also
I'll
be
do, you know.
or it could also be extremely disingenuous, right? Because you have an artist that really was flourishing for 3-4 years, and now they're smoking and pot-bellied and can't function, maybe in a wheelchair. Who knows? Whatever. They just like deteriorated from a health perspective, but they're raking in millions of dollars because an AI engine is
Yeah.
capitalizing on their likeness when they were in their heyday. So is that also good? I don't know if it's good or I just
Yeah.
these are all ethical questions we should be talking about, to kind of figure out
I,
what makes sense.
I love that you're part of that discussion too. And I probably, Ali said to me this. She was like, you were just down because I think I was down in DC maybe a month ago.
Okay.
Didn't even think I saw
Yeah.
the Grammys on the Hill thing, and I was like, oh, maybe I should just go to that. And then I was like, it's all the way in DC. I'm gonna have to fly there and blah blah blah. I don't have to fly. It's actually close, just as close to me as New York City is. And I didn't
Oh yeah, I
realize
believe
that
that.
until I
Yeah.
went down to DC. And then afterwards, she's like, I don't know why you didn't go to that. Like you should have probably went to that. And that I next
Yeah.
if there's things like that in DC, I'm
Right.
definitely gonna be there. And I want to be respectful of your time. And I know we're
Sure.
about an hour. I usually have a
Yeah.
clock over there, and Allie is yelling at me to shut it down. Here, I've just got cognac in front of me and a good conversation.
You
So
know what? I'm having such a great time too.
yeah, this
So
can
yeah.
go on forever.
Yeah.
But let's do this. Let's end it here. If
Sure.
you were to give a bit of advice to an up and coming songwriter, musician,
Yep.
creative, maybe somewhere where it's not being encouraged, let's say, and they're on their own and they're like, I really want to do this, but either my family or the people around me are telling me not to do it or whatever. What would your like, even if it's a small piece of advice to them, what
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you for asking that question, though. So, one of the things that I've been doing is I mentor a lot of the Berkeley grads and the musicians. I never have this problem where they're not driven to do music. Everybody shows up and wants to, tackle the entire gamut of everything you need to know, not only the musical advice, but the professional advice, the industry expertise, so on and so forth. But I would say and it doesn't just have to be music. It could be any kind of art, and to me, this is fundamental. The music heals you, and I don't know if many people talk about this. I believe that's also that's your title of your track, right?
it is? Well,
The
the
music,
music.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The music heals, but that is a reality. It kind of heals you. Then you end up, and I was having this discussion with with somebody else that I'm recommending to join the academy, and she was like, and then you take the stage, and you're almost like a doctor or a physician because you express your art, and then it goes and heals the audience members. And then these audience members go out and do great things because they were healed by what you put out there on stage in their particular lives. And that has a chain reaction and goes and makes the world a better place. So I feel like if you are not involved in that process where what you're doing is repairing you from life can be pretty tough, right? It can be pretty rough at times too. If you don't have a mechanism that allows you to heal and then allows you to kind of express that and heal other people and kind of more, that is integral to us having a better world to live in. So, it's not just like, oh, it's me you're thinking about. There are massive butterfly effects and ramifications for everybody surrounding you to kind of, take this on. So yeah, take it on. Tough things are always going to happen, but once you realize that this is a mechanism where you heal yourself and then in turn others, it just becomes a no-brainer at that point.
It's so funny. I think we were maybe brothers in a former life or something, because that's exactly what I was thinking about, like a butterfly, the butterfly effect.
Yeah.
It's like, a small little thing. I never thought as a musician, I've had people come up to me and be like, oh, that's my favorite song to me that they listen to during times in their lives. And I'm like, I've had I created a bar right here, a bar of all things, right?
Right.
Cider bar.
Oh,
and people have proposed there, like they started their
Yeah.
marriage there. I'm like, I just made a bar, and but this place was so impactful to them, um to be able to do something so small like that, like just flap your wings a little bit, your pretty little wings a little bit, and for that to be an inspiration potentially for a storm, which is the butterfly effect, right?
Yeah.
The inspiration for a storm is certainly possible. That's what I think Kurt Cobain and all those band, those little, they flapped their wings a couple of times and the world changed. So I think that's why I do music. I think that's why you do music. And I think for any independent, starting out artist, anyone like that, that's looking to do anything creative, I think that's a very important message to be delivered, is that no matter how small,
Yeah.
just go up and do it. And you never know who's going to be impacted, or at least relate to you and feel like there's someone else in the world that feels that way and not feel as alone. Um,
Yeah.
it's
But
important.
it's
Important
yeah,
work, even though it feels like you're just playing around on stage, you know?
it's yeah, and it does something to you too, right? It's not like you're not martyring yourself for the greater good.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm not.
You're becoming a better individual, and in that act you're helping everybody else too. So
All
yeah,
right.
man, it's
So
spot
I'm
on. And
gonna
I do feel like we're brothers from
it's
another life or
yeah.
something.
So we're gonna be hanging out in New York.
Yep,
When this
absolutely.
comes out in a week, we'll be hanging out.
Okay.
And so I look forward to
2 weeks,
that.
right? 2 weeks.
Well, 2 weeks
May
from
22nd.
when we're
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
recording it
yeah.
right now. By the
Right,
time
right.
this comes out, then it'll
Oh,
be a
got
week from
you.
then.
Yep. Yeah.
Um, but
Okay, got it.
so
Yeah.
I'm gonna thank everyone for watching, listening. Thank you to our sponsors. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll throw the little animation down there. Don't forget, if you're in New York City, May 22nd from 7 to 9 p.m. Pianos, New York City, down in the Lower East Side. Come out and check us out. You can see all these fabulous musicians that we were just talking about. You can do some shots with us. I'll do some tequila shots. I think I got some food coming and stuff, so there'll be food there. Come on down, have a good time. It's only $10. Don't forget to, did I say it already? Like and subscribe. Yeah, I think I said
Yeah,
that.
I did, yeah.
So let's cut now. What do you want to tell them again one more time? Where can they find all your stuff?
Yeah, Noshir Mody, noshirmody.com, @Noshir Mody. There you go.
There we go.
You're right.
Short,
Yeah.
simple, and beautiful. Well,
Yeah,
we'll have to have another discussion. Uh,
absolutely. I'd love it.
Hopefully you'll be on the show again. I'd like to get to episode, I don't know, 10,000,
100,
whatever. Yeah.
10,000. Yeah,
Eventually.
right. Yeah.
We'll see if podcasting lasts that long, but I'd like to outlast podcasting if that's possible. But thank you for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I'll
Yeah.
see you in a couple of weeks, and we'll have some drinks. We'll play some music, which will be super fun to actually play a show with you. And thank you for being on the show, man.
Sounds awesome. Thanks for having me,
Yeah.
brother.
And thank you for everyone that's listening, watching. We'll see you
Yep.
in the next one.
Yeah.
Later.